you're still tuned in to the Power Station Energy 100. This is Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman and myself, Elsie Binyani, as your hostess. We are talking about GDP right about now. Mr. Daniel Steinman, can you maybe tell us what is the importance of the GDP when it comes to the economy?
Elsie, I wish I could find somebody in Namibia who knows. Remember, GDP does not determine the economy, it is an outcome of the economy. If you look at the economy at large, the whole economy. But for the budget, so you need to make a distinction between the economy. In other words, everybody's contribution, every Namibian's contribution, or whether it's company or whether it's a private individual, to make money. If I can put it very simple, to live, and hopefully to make a little bit more than just what you need to eat that day. This is the whole intention of running a business, is to create a profit. Now the same thing applies to the government. So we need to distinguish between there's the whole economy, and then there's the budget, which is the government's part of the economy, which is about roughly between 33 and 36% of the entire economy. So you can immediately see from that the government is about 1/3 of the economy, very roughly speaking, and it also depends on, in your calculation or in your table that you draw up, do you include the parastatals, do you exclude them? If you include them, why some and why not others? This becomes a little bit technical and hair splitting, and it's a job that we leave to the statistics agency, because they've got certain formula that they apply, and it's not just thumb suck, or it's just not just Namibian NSA formula. It applies worldwide, and it basically comes from the IMF. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you get to budgeting, there's a certain structure, and there's also a certain way that you calculate GDP. Because GDP, remember I said, it is the outcome of the economy, but it is the input of the budget. It's very important to understand that part, that difference in direction. So GDP originates from the entire economy, and the budget leans on GDP. It is your anchor value. So you first need to calculate GDP. Now, the moment I make that remark, I'm opening a whole can of worms, because there are 4 broad methodologies to calculate GDP. Actually, I shouldn't say calculate, to determine GDP. With 3 of them, you always get an answer that's sort of in the ballpark. But with one of the methodologies, the answer can diverge quite a lot. It means that you have to pick which GDP methodology is most appropriate for your own economy, and then you have to stick to it. You can't jump around. So when we adopted the MTEF, the Medium Term Expenditure Framework, in 2003, there was a long debate about which GDP methodology is relevant for Namibia. And then we made a choice, or we implemented one, and it has worked very well for us. But the important thing is, for the last 20 years, we've been using the same methodology. So it becomes academic, or actually irrelevant, whether the GDP figure is really a very reliable indicator of the entire economy, or whether it is a reliable indicator of the trends in the economy. So people may say, we now got to 232.9 billion, so 233 billion for all practical aspects. But how do you calculate that? And then they go into this whole debate on, from an academic point of view, what is the right approach, and how do you determine GDP? And there are other quality of life indicators and it's a debate that the moment you venture into it, you can get lost. So that is why we adopted a certain structure in 2003, and we've stuck with it for 20 years, and you see the results. The point I'm trying to make is, it doesn't matter whether the GDP is 232 billion. What matters is how much more is it than last year. Do you see?
Yeah.
So it is only important as a comparison. The GDP can be 180 billion, 50 billion less, and we can all be millionaires. That's really the thing which you must get your mind around. GDP is just a figure, and it's a rather academic figure, and it's an abstract way of extracting something out of the economy that doesn't really exist in practical terms. But what's very important is that you always apply the same framework, so that you can see in which direction you are going. So when we lost 8.1% of the economy in 2020 and 2021, the nominal figure, whether it was 197 billion or 185 billion or whatever, is completely irrelevant. The important thing is the economic activity was 8% smaller after COVID than what it was before COVID. And the same thing applies now. Nice growth in 2022, good growth this year, but the thing that we're looking for is, are we making up that 8% that we've lost? So we mustn't crack our heads over, is it 230 billion or is it this or that? We must look at what rate are we growing, so that we can recapture all that economic gains that we lost over the 2 COVID years.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense, and I hope that it also makes a sense to the listeners, but I'm sure it does. We unfortunately have to say goodbye, Mr. Daniel Steinman. Thank you so much for coming through yet again, and thank you so much to our listeners for keeping it locked to the Power Station Energy 100. For myself, Elsa Bitimyani, we say goodbye to you until next time.